Lawyer Martin Kpebu a private legal practitioner. In fact, also no dear. So bit in a baby. Eka say, Yewra President Mahama declare state of emergency. Efa galamsey issues one. Oni nipa na nya adwen. Oni Kofi Bentil Imani Ghana President Aklashi. Na mempese mekasa bebre yebekọ na yekwa kuti conversation no how esi ekọ so sanso na Lawyer Tamaklo one of the legal member NDC legal team no member baako owura we esanso NPP CEO what you say na yenko tie conversation na omo have on the state of emergency declaration Ghana for anyone now NPP for AYEKA Senka Yewra President Mahama on declaring things and
what has been achieved. Is this enough justification for the reluctance of the president to declare a state of emergency? I'll start off with you.
Absolutely. It goes without saying.
These?
Yes, they are.
Why is that?
Oh, I've been making the point even before last Saturday. I were on social media a few days to last Saturday, other radio stations, where I said, look, my key question is this. What is it? And that's what the president said. What is it that we cannot do now, but only a state of emergency will allow us to do? What is it? Because the key thing is that the state of emergency, like I keep saying, is basically it's a paper. Declaration of a state of emergency is a paper. And we all know in our Ghanaian parlance, we like to say, paper no get legs, right? It's something we for carry on. So the declaration of a state of emergency is not a magic wand. That declaration alone is not a silver bullet. You will still need the police to go and enforce. And you see that if you were to declare a state of emergency, you are asking basically what are the consequences after? Because in Article 31, after giving the various circumstances under which a state of emergency can be declared, the next is that the government can take some steps to curtail our liberties. So number one, we are looking at freedom of movement, freedom of speech, right? Communications, assembly. Look at all the freedoms from Article 12 to about 32. The chapter 5 ends around Article 33, right? Of course, there are other rights that are not expressly stated in the Constitution. But Article 33 says that they are also recognized. Because, this our Constitution is partly, these rights are a reproduction of our international obligation under the International Covenant for Civil and Political Rights, and then the one on economic and social rights, right? So for those that we've not even expressly provided here, they are also part and recognized. So the key thing is that, why do you want the government to impose a state of emergency to now come and curtail freedom of movement, communications, etc.? To do what?
And this,
to do what?
The call is to enforce this state of emergency or impose a state of emergency in specific areas.
I'm saying, so let's say
where this galamsey is happening, and it's distracting or causing destruction to these forest reserves, and then also the pollution of water bodies. It's not a mass imposition that is being called for.
Excellent. Yes. Oh, I thought that was too clear. Often because we don't have much time, we just go to the salient part. But if you permit me, yes, so let's go back. So let's say, yes, we know. You showed the galamsey hit this map.
Yes.
So let's use the president's hometown area, Bole Bamboy. So they say Erastus Asaridonko gave the example of the Yonkomba River, right? So that area. So if, let's say, you take Bole, if you say the state of emergency should cover the whole town of Bole, what specific? Are you doing a lockdown? Lockdown that nobody should move, like what we did during COVID? Restrictions, you see? And I'm soon coming to the Supreme Court decision that struck down the Act 1012. You know when we did the restrictions? Yes, Act 1012. The Supreme Court struck it down. was dubious that the government was using it as a pretext to abuse fundamental human rights. So let's use Bole as an example. So if you say there's a state of emergency over Bole, which one? You know, there are various methods, but let's be graphic. So they can say, okay, curfew, down to dusk, right? So let's say 6, maybe even, they say just stay indoors all day, like the way we were at home during the COVID. Is that what we are looking for? So stay indoors. Everybody should stay indoors. So apart from essential services, police, hospitals, telecom, right, courts, there are about 7 or 8 essential services, right?
Yes.
So apart from them, the rest of the citizens should stay at home.
But with what is happening now?
Sorry?
But what is happening now, yes, what you see, right?
Yes.
There's the task force, they will go to one area,
Yes.
clamp down on their activities.
Yeah.
When they move from there,
Yeah.
after some time, the illegal miners go back.
But the president gave an answer. He said now they will give a permanent presence. We have police. The police are at least around 40,000. There are millions of graduates at home. They want to enlist in the police service. And me, I keep repeating that. I pray that, look, we shouldn't use the military. We can use the police. Let the military do external aggression and war. Let the police work. Let the police work. We don't want this militarization of Galamsey. No. Okay? Let the military concentrate on the other. Look, we need bridges, more roads to be built, etc. If the military, we have more of them in the barracks and the rest, they are not occupied. Let's deploy them in the big push agenda when it comes to the road construction, because they have the 48th Engineer Regiment, etc. Because
Okay.
I've been advocating that a lot of the government projects, yes, let the military help. That one I agree. But when it comes to law enforcement, the Constitution is clear that the police has that traditional role of maintaining law and order, right? Yes, as we've stated in Article 200, right? So my point is that now, so we're talking about the, what do you call it? Imposing restrictions. So let's just read this briefly before we go on. It says, Article 200, Clause 3, it says, the police service shall be equipped and maintained to perform its traditional role of maintaining law and order. Then when you go to Article 210, that's 210, you say, it says, the armed forces shall be equipped and maintained to perform their role of defense of Ghana. So that's the main one. Okay? As well as such other functions for the development of Ghana as the president may determine. So you see, for a development, yes, the roads, the big push agenda, that's it. That place, the engineering regiment, etc. So the point is this, citizens, we are in this together. You know that, look, we've all suffered for Galamsey. I keep telling you, I lost my job because I was fighting to save Itiwa Forest, right? Everybody, people are, I'm sure people will recount their personal stories and they'll show that every one of us here is paid a price one way or the other. So it's not as if we just want to sit down and say anything. Please, I'm being very humble. What I'm saying is that, look, under the laws, currently the police can help. NIMOS, that's the National Task Force, has its own persons, etc. They are allowed to go and stop the Galamseyers. And the president said that after stopping them, now we'll have permanent presence in the forest. So it's not like this time they will go and stop the Galamseyers, go away to the next forest, and then the Galamseyers leave the forest currently being, monitored, and go to the other forest, which is supposedly free. No, the president said that they would have a permanent presence. And that is something that previously I had been arguing with this Kenashibe. I told him, I said, look, we just need more boots on the ground. More permanent boots on the ground.
Well,
and that's what the president said they are doing.
Beyond just the boots, it's people of integrity. We've seen...
excellent, yes.
We've seen people in uniform compromised.
Yes.
In this Galamsey fight.
Yes.
So it's not just about having these people, the permanent boots
on the ground. You are perfectly right. So previously, we had said that they should embed more journalists in the team so that the journalists, the media would, keep the, what do you call it, searchlight on them. Because it says sunshine is the best disinfectant.
But unfortunately, we had a journalist also.
And then one journalist, yes, but one bad apple spoils the rest, right? But that was one case. But we can't stop trying. In our personal lives, when we fail, we get up and then keep trying. So in the same way, in governance, if somebody fails, we check out the person, deal with the person according to law, and then replace. So for me, as I've said, please, let's do everything. Let's exhaust the laws. Because if you don't exhaust the laws, if the president declares a state of emergency, look, it won't take 24 hours. Some citizens will be in the Supreme Court challenging him that who has asked him to do such a thing when we've not exhausted all the laws. So please, let's be patient. And I'm happy since, for the past week and a half now, you see that now citizens are facing up to the fact that, well, maybe we're shouting state of emergency, like a magic wand.
Well, that brings in the politics of things. That
yes,
in the previous administration, this call for a state of emergency was rife. And the former president was held to the fire for not declaring a state of emergency. And
yes.
Now it appears, as you are saying, the reality has hit us.
Yes.
And now there's a reluctance to do so.
Yes. The former president, Kufuor, was held to the fire for that because of his reckless comments. Yeah.
Which is what?
The Akunta mining matter. And of course, now we all know that in October, the Akunta mining case will be going to court. Attorney General has his charges ready. That would be great to see Wontumi in court. Finally. So Kufuor was held to account for his reckless comments on Akunta mining and other things. He said Akunta mining was not engaged in illegal mining at the time he was speaking. A message that chilled the investigations. Because the police are not that independent, Faustina Ndokufi, CID boss at the time, he was looking over his shoulders with the commander-in-chief saying that Chairman Wontumi and Akunta mining were not involved in illegal mining.
I'm talking about state of emergency.
Yes, you asked me the question that you said the Kufuor had been held to account. Because he didn't declare a state of emergency. And I was saying that it's not just that he didn't declare, but his posturings, he gave succor to illegal mining by defending Chairman Wontumi, etc. Yes. So the state of emergency is not just that citizens were not. So in one word, it was a culmination of all his previous posturings and reckless comments.
So should that same posture be applied to this administration for the president's reluctance in declaring a state of emergency?
No, they are two different things. The president has said that, look, you see, he's shown over 1,000 illegal miners arrested, special courts in the offing to speed up prosecution, 440 excavators impounded. This time it's not like under Kufuor where the excavators fled. They developed wings and fled. 1,400 plus water pumps destroyed. Of course, I'm against that one because under the law, it says that when you get the equipment, give to the district assemblies after the end of the prosecution. So, Mr. President and NIMOS, please don't destroy champagnes, etc. Okay, no distractions, right? Yeah, 300 champagne machines seized in recent months. Then 980 security personnel recruited and deployed to protect water bodies and reserves. And of course, we have millions of our citizens unemployed, right? Let's employ more, right? So based on this, that's based on the fact that we've not exhausted all the remedies available to us in law, I cannot support a state of emergency. Okay. Even under Kufuor, if you had asked me, as I said, you won't find me on record to have said I wanted a state of emergency for Galamsey. No, maybe something else. But for Galamsey, I never joined that bandwagon. Wagon. Okay.
I see. Well, Kofi Bentil, on this matter, because you see, the president's reference and his indicated that his reluctance to declare a state of emergency is not in oblivion. He talks about the powers available and what he's using the powers for. And these achievements, as we outlined, we put on the screen, is what he says, at least over the last 9 months, this without a state of emergency has been achieved. So give me time, let me exhaust the powers. State of emergency would be the last resort as against the demands of civil society and now the Catholic Bishops' Conference, that the state of emergency, because of the existential threat we're faced with now, should even be now. It should be imposed now instead of the nearest possible future. That's sounding like...
He has a point. The president has a point. And nation building is not easy. Governance is not easy. To make durable decisions, effective, durable decisions, you need to analyze the problem well, spend time thinking through it. Development is thinking intensive. It is not action intensive. Thinking intensive. And if you do a lot of critical thinking around the issue, you come to some of the positions that Martin has come to. For instance, that the state of emergency per se won't solve the problem. All right? And last week, I got a call from a very senior military person. I mean, very, very senior, very experienced, and clearly knows what he's talking about. And he made a very, very good suggestion. He said, look, state of emergency, like you're saying, it's a declaration of something. And it goes with so many other things. On the other hand, you could simply declare every Galamsey area as a security zone. What it does is you don't have to go to parliament, but you open up that space for the military and the police and the security agency to take it over and then deal with it. That is a better way, in my view, of dealing with it.
Declared as a security zone.
Declared as a security zone. Okay. And that one you can do as an executive. You don't have to go through so many things, and you still can effect certain things. Like Martin is saying, I have no doubt that if our army is left alone, they can do this job, but they won't be left alone. All right. So those things are there. Now, however, those calling for the state of emergency have absolute firm grounds to do so. Why? It was a social contract. Okay. The problem is that sometimes we politicize everything. So the government went on, persons in the government went on, and they made noises and clamored and called and made political capital out of it and said, declare state of emergency. If you don't declare this, there are ministers today who said if they don't declare state of emergency, they will resign. And they said all kinds of things. When you do that, you make a promise to the state, the nation, the people. And if based on that, you get into office, you are morally bound to do so. That is the grounds upon which people are saying declare state of emergency. But like I said, development is not action intensive per se. It is thinking intensive. So honestly, for some of us, we think that some mistakes are being made. And until those conceptual mistakes which, when you embark on that path, it is clear you're going to get a certain result. And that's why Galamsey hasn't been solved. Personally, right now, I can tell you, I don't think we'll solve Galamsey.
You don't think we'll solve Galamsey?
No, we won't. We will not solve Galamsey because we are not serious about solving Galamsey. Look, let me quote Thomas Sowell. Okay, you can Google him. He says, it is hard to imagine a more dangerous or stupid way of making decisions than by putting those decisions in the hands of people who pay no price for being wrong. This is Thomas Sowell. Forgive his language. He says, it is hard to imagine anything more stupid, anything more dangerous than putting in the hands of people a job that they have to do for which they don't pay any price for failing. All right? On the other hand, in the case of Galamsey, it is worse. Let me tell you why. They don't pay any price for failing, and they gain a lot for failing.
We sacked the NPP.
Oh.
It's a price.
The
NPP, all the pikes, the corruption, they were chopping left, right, center, but we booted them out.
That again is our problem. When we politicize everything and think removing one government and bringing another will let those boys mining in the forest, the Galamsey kingpin sitting in Accra, and all the people financing it, you shift NPP to NDC. That's what we do. And it is worse. So we will not solve Galamsey. All right? Let me also tell you, hold on. Give me a minute, please. I'll get through this. Let me also tell you why we will not solve Galamsey. There is no political will to solve Galamsey.
There's no political will?
There is only political rhetoric. There is no political will. How do you see political will? You see it in definite, effective actions. There are no definite, effective actions to solve Galamsey. And I'll explain. Why? The city today, and to that extent, our economy, is supported by Galamsey.
How do you say this, that the city is supported by
If you want me to go there, I'm going to go there. But the point is, all the stability you are seeing, etc., you've been told about how successful Gold Board is. Gold Board has told you how many tons of gold and billions of dollars they've sold and made, to support the city. Where do you think they're getting that gold from?
Well,
right?
where do you think they're getting it?
They are getting from Galamsey.
How do you know that?
I know that because it's been declared that most of it is coming from small-scale mining. Let me finish my point.
Registered small-scale mining.
Yes, registered. Let me finish my point. We'll get to that. But I'm telling you, the city today is supported by Galamsey. Now, then,
if you prove that, then
you are breaking my flow.
Yes.
I'm making the point why. I said there's no political will. The economy is supported by it. Those in charge of support of stopping Galamsey are the ones benefiting from it. All right. Let me tell you, I quoted Thomas Sowell, and I'm going through some of the things that if we want to do, we can do. And we will not do because, like I said, there's no political will to solve it. For instance, these are things that we can do today. All right? One, the government or the president can issue a statement and ban all import of excavators. Ban all non-construction uses of excavators. Today, he can pass that. And there's no reason why not. A small country like Ghana is the world's biggest importer of excavators. Why? And most excavators in Ghana are being used for destruction instead of construction.
Well,
today, the president can ban it, and anybody found using an excavator which is not being used in construction, it can be seized. Okay. I'm not talking about Galamsey. I'll finish. I just have 2 or 3 points.
Yes, and I just want to say that the point about William being the world's biggest importer of Galamsey is not supported by facts.
Okay, I get it. I mean, we are making the point.
We are part of.
I hear you.
But not the world's biggest. If you talk about the sub-region, yes.
Okay, I hear you.
But the world's biggest importer.
You make a note. When I finish, you can clear those things.
I just wanted to make that.
I concede on that. Okay, we are amongst the biggest. The point is still the same. All right, so I get it. Now, today, like we just said, instead of passing state of emergency and doing nothing, you can declare security zones in all those places and let loose our military there and let them do their work. Today, if you want, Galamsey happens in districts. In each of those districts, there's a district chief executive. In each of those districts, it's covered by a regional minister. And these districts are also covered by chiefs. All right? Today, if we want, we can make a rule that says, if Galamsey is found in your district, you lose your job. Why is that difficult? Why is that difficult? This is an existential problem for this country. It is killing people. Okay, you are the district chief executive. Why have you not been able to solve the biggest problem in your district? If today we find Galamsey in your district, you are out. A new person comes, and we keep sacking them. Today, we can do it if we want to. And I'm saying there's no political will. That is why we will not do it. Then let me add this to it also. Listen, we have chiefs who are custodians of our lands. Custodians are, in effect, trustees. It doesn't belong to them. You have a situation where a local problem like Galamsey, digging and spoiling and polluting the land, is having a national effect. We are all paying the price for somebody's, malfeasance.
Yeah.
It is reasonable for us, and we can do it today using an executive order or go to parliament and pass a law that says that every land space which Galamsey is found on shall be nationalized. It shall be forfeited to the state. It shall no longer belong to that chief and no longer be in the power of the chief, etc. All right? In other words, if you're a chief and you allow Galamsey on any part of your land, that land is lost. You don't have any rights over it. Alfred,
yes.
I have just listed a number of things. If you play back, you see what I mean.
Yes.
I can go through it but for time. And I'm saying these are things we can do today. But there is no political will to do it because the people who are supposed to fix it are the ones benefiting from it. And Thomas Sowell has told you, and he said it decades ago, that it's a very, very, very bad way of governance. So let's stop the screaming and shouting about state of emergency per se. But I've also told you that is because Eduji and his people campaign heavily over it. And that is why people are charging them to execute on that. All right? So please, Galamsey can be stopped. But as far as I'm concerned, until I see some of these things that can be done easily being done, I don't think will solve.
Including the chiefs and traditional leaders
forfeiting their lands.
Leading that charge on the ground. Because you see, there's that concern about the deficiency of the legs that Martin Kpebu talks about being on the ground. If the chiefs and people take charge of their own destinies in fighting Galamsey in the areas, will not necessarily need...
You are perfectly right. If I didn't go there, but there are instances where there are pockets, areas where Galamsey is not present. And the only reason why is because the chiefs refuse to allow it. So look, no government can come from Jubilee and go and solve Galamsey in Etriman Polua. It is the chiefs and the people, which is why I'm saying there should be a consequence for them not doing it. The consequence of not doing it is that you, the chief, you lose that land. All that space of land, that whole forest reserve is nationalized. It's no longer yours. Number two, the people there will also lose the land for farming and wild because it's declared a security zone. The army goes there. Where you don't find Galamsey, there's only one reason. It's because the chiefs and the people refuse to make that happen. Sorry, you took me there, so let me go there. We at Imani are aware of something. There's something called the Galamsey economy. It is supporting 4 million people in Ghana.
Okay. 4 million?
Yeah, that's one of the estimates. Supporting 1 million to 4 million people.
Yeah, the president cited this.
Oh, well, good. I didn't even hear that. But that's what our research is showing. And this is more than just the people mining, etc. That is a massive problem. Okay? And until the people get to a point where they feel stopping Galamsey will be more beneficial than doing it, they won't stop it. People selling food, selling water, and all those other things. I hear people are rationing water in some places. All right, yeah. So if you take the fact that in an economy like ours, 4 million people are supported by Galamsey, then you need really serious things being done to make sure that it makes more sense for them not to do that, but to do other things. So, Alfred, I've listed just a few things that I'm asking. Why would we not do those things today? Why not ban excavators? Why not make every DCE's job dependent on removing Galamsey? Why don't you nationalize all lands where Galamsey is found present and make sure that you can declare those areas security zones, allow the army to run around in those places?
As for your army thing, I've been telling the army people that we don't want them here. No, let them go and build roads and defend.
I agree with building roads, but the point is this.
Let the police work. They also have a SWAT team. They have the
myself, the army has tried, they didn't succeed because they were interfered with. If we leave them alone, they can do it. This is internal aggression.
Which is
it is internal aggression.
It's not necessary.
You need force. They are armed though.
Let the police
the people,
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyway, let's leave it.
Thank you.
They are armed in the forest.
It's clear that you are not going to agree on this. So you have divergent views, which is fine.
Oh, but the main point, we agree that state of emergency is not a magic one. We agree on boots on the ground. But he's saying add soldiers. And we are saying, I'm saying no.
You don't want soldiers. Lawyer Tamaklo, the question about the political will, the position that Lawyer Kofi Bentil espouses areas, reason why, in his view, making that emphatic statement that Galamsey cannot be stopped because of the inaction in these specific areas he talks about. Why not ban the importation of excavators? We saw over 1,200 of them impounded at the ports. But some number of them have been moved to decongest the ports, some measures being put in place to track them and so on. Why are these actions not being taken to back the interventions that we've seen in the last 8 months that the president outlines? Reason why he's reluctant in declaring a state of emergency.
Okay, so Alfred, once again, I want to thank you and a good morning to my cherished seniors today. Today I'm surrounded by my seniors at the bar, and I've listened to each one of them raise very salient points. I need to first of all make this point, that the Catholic Bishop Conference within the week raised a very important issue about the existential nature of Galamsey and the call to the president to declare a state of emergency. The NDC and the government of Ghana, led by President John Dramani Mahama, respects the views expressed by the Catholic Bishop Conference. Over the period, they have never reneged in the call for the ban on galamsey activities. The records to show that by 2023, we have done $11 million worth of imported water into the country. Aside creating $11 million worth of job outside the country, I mean, you can imagine if we could rely on this solely here in the country. I think it's important that in having this conversation, we put context to it, because the context will help us appreciate whether there is a political will or there is a lack of it. I recall vividly in 2017, immediately when President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo took over, among others, he said he was putting his presidency on the line relative to the fight against galamsey. In the next 100 years, only 25 people out of 32 million can become president. And so where a president says, I am putting my presidency on the line, is a huge price that he's willing to pay for. So by 2017, we had Operation Vanguard, correct?
Yeah.
Now, it's important to make that point that it didn't take long when the government withdrew the military component of Operation Vanguard by reason of the National Security Directive that they had been success chalked with Operation Vanguard, and therefore took the military out and then justified why the police should handle it, in the sense that the police are responsible for internal security. It has always been stated that galamsey is environmental terrorism. And for that matter, in handling it, you must handle it as though you are dealing with terrorists. And so the military was very germane into this whole conversation.
Yes.
So by 2019, we had moved the military. However, something happened. By 2020, the entire Operation Vanguard was disbanded. What animated that decision? We do not know. However, by 2021, after the NPP had lost elections, so if you recall, the disbandment coincided with the 2020 re-election. A president that had put his presidency on the line. So by 2020, when he needed re-election, he disbanded Operation Vanguard. Very important. Immediately he got a second term. In 2021, he came out with Operation Halt, Phase 2. Very, very important. This time around, they brought the military back and said they were engaged in an intelligence-led operation to stop galamsey. Very, very important. So this is where we have moved to where we are today. Then now remember something. It was in 2023 that the bombshell came. The Professor Frimpong Boateng report. It is that bombshell that threw light on the lack of will, I won't call it political, the lack of will to deal with the issue. Now, if you read the Frimpong Boateng report, it chronicles what then appeared to be direct interference right from the presidency relative to the issues of galamsey. And in the words of Professor Frimpong Boateng, an interview he granted GBC, he then said, quote, that the Jubilee House had become the center of galamsey, and named persons who were then working, one at the Chief of Staff's office, among other things, are persons with interest in galamsey. That is the trajectory. That is the record of what we are faced with. Now, it's important to say this. When you look at the Professor Boateng's report, the 2023 one, it was that report that told us that the president is in receipt of this report 2 years earlier. It was when Frimpong Boateng did the interview with GBC. Then quickly the president referred Frimpong Boateng to the CID. That was when civil society came in and said, Mr. President, why report him to the CID? When you had already been in receipt of this report 2 years earlier, is it a strategy, as it were, to gag Frimpong Boateng?
Sentence.
So, and if you recall, that was when Professor Frimpong Boateng then was arrested, and his bail conditions became an issue, and then the conversations started. Now, what we all need to know is the call by President, or the call on President Mahama by well-meaning Ghanaians that, Mr. President, we think we've gotten to a situation where a declaration of a state of emergency will greatly help. And I say this with all due respect. The Catholic Bishop Conference, among others, in this country, and with all humility on this platform, I'm not sure any of us received security briefing. It is only the president. Pursuant to the report and the briefings that he's gotten, he says, I am not ruling out the state of emergency, but it will be the last resort.
But if you listen to the scholars, they don't receive security briefing, but the realities.
I'm coming there. I'm coming there with respect. Now, basically, what we are confronted with now is a president who, even without making a declaration that I'm putting my presidency on the line, has taken bold initiatives. We need to first ask ourselves, what would have been the state of affairs if President Mahama has not arrested over 1,000 illegal miners? What would have been the state of affairs if we have 440 excavators currently working on our water bodies? What would have been the state of affairs if we have 1,400 water pumps on our water bodies currently? What would have been the state of affairs with 300 champagnes working currently? What would have been the state of affairs? Always remember that by 2020, we had already moved Operation Vanguard, disbanded it. Operation Hot came, nothing really came out of it. Now we have NIMOS. Now, what is the mandate, the core mandate of NIMOS? It's important we appreciate that. What NIMOS has now done is to become a centralized secretariat. Centralized, permanently fixed to our water bodies, together with the water guards. Is that, yes, the water guards, ably assisted with the marine police, among other things, to ensure that we'll get to the point where we'll be manning our water bodies by 24 hours. Look, I've seen people try to ridicule President John Dramani Mahama and what he said prior to becoming president, that we're going to use AI in the conversation to fight galamsey. I met the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources yesterday. And he said, look, Eduji, the entire length of the Ankobra River is about 190 kilometers. So what it means is that if it's only even the Ankobra, you need to have the water guards man the Ankobra River 190 kilometers every day and at every time.
That won't work.
Correct.
The pollution comes from elsewhere.
So
if you sit on the river, you don't stop the pollution.
So I am coming there. I am coming there. And he said, look, if you do a movement through, you now notice that they are fetching the water outside, treating the sand and everything outside, and now pumping it back into the water bodies. So today, you don't see them necessarily on the water.
Exactly.
But they are operating outside the water. So what it means is that even the dynamics relative to the illegal mining things has changed because they are also responding to government intervention. In the sense that when they see progress here, they also innovate.
Right.
For want of a better word, also innovate to come out with different strategies
But are these
to keep surviving.
Potent?
Extremely potent.
To address the evolving nature of this.
No, that is why I'm saying that. You see, Mr. Bentil raised a very important point. He said it is not only action, but thinking. You need people to begin to look at the cycle, the extent of innovation, and respond accordingly. Why? In the 1980s, Ghana became a hub for drugs. Many families created generational wealth out of drugs. It has to take the PNDC. But remember at that time, we didn't have this nature of democracy. And this even moved on to 96. You remember, Benjilo.
Yes.
Those were the top boys. It was by 2000, 1999, that government basically rooted the big boys out and then it basically quieted. Even that, by 2003, the drug trade had Goldman and the rest, NV Benjamin and the rest. So this is a trade that evolves. That is the phase that Galamsey is taking. Galamsey had become an Amweba.
So root out the big boys.
Yes.
So you see, that was a
no, now I'm coming there. I'm coming there. I'm coming there. You see, I have said
in your manifesto.
Yes.
The promise was to identify the kingpins.
I'm coming there.
And the financiers.
So permit me. You see, when you want to deal with the big boys, it's always intelligence-led. Because no big boy will go to a Galamsey site. Nobody does that. I recall, if you read the Republic in Bonsu, alias Benjilo, in the judgment, you will notice how Benjilo was even keeping drugs in children's book just to conceal it. It has to take intelligence to get to that level. And they'll put it in the freezer. The drugs in the freezer. It's all in the law reports. And how eventually, in fact, if you read Justice Atugba's, the Supreme Court portion of it, Justice Atugba basically takes you through the factual matrices. The point I am making is that we have gotten to the point where it should be intelligence-led. Some of it I cannot say on air because of the intelligence nature of it.
Right.
So that you can even get to that point. Look, shockingly, we are even finding out that there is a fuel, a petroleum aspect to the conversation.
To Galamsey?
Yes. How are the excavators working?
Yes.
How are they fuel?
Fuel consumption alone will tell you what's happening.
There was an operation earlier in the year that they identified a makeshift fuel station.
That is why I am saying that some of these things are intelligence-led. You can't say much about it. Because you also need to look at it. Very critical intervention. So it's a bit more complex. And you see, with respect, if you take respectfully, and I say this with all humility, a tunnel vision approach to the fight, you miss it. You go and arrest the small boys, and immediately another set will get recruited. I found out something uniquely. My friend is into big farms. And the person who supplies him fuel in the farms, one day visited, twice he's lost the mates, the tanker driver, the mates. So he asked him, how come that anytime you come with a different mate? Then he said there was a time that when he visited one of the mining communities with his mate, the mate asked the guys who go, they call it the boys, almost say, Yakoyam, anwea. So he asked them how much they make. And then the guys gave him how much they make every day. He said that was when he lost the mate.
That's the Galamsey economy.
The mate then asked, he said, Master, the menya has some economy ko yamanwa na the menya wa no untimi ntuyame. And that was how he lost the mate. And so it's a bit more nuanced than it. But what I have seen, and that is why I want to submit that President Mahama has demonstrated political will. At least we saw party leadership meet in the minister's office and say, party here sika. You remember?
Yes, absolutely.
Party here sika.
Yeah.
Party needs money. And so we must do it. We saw that before in the minister's office. What happened? Today, at least if not for anything, under the watch of President Mahama, 2 of my national officers are going through an investigative process. That's political will.
Joseph Yamin and Abanga.
I know when that decision was taken by the Attorney General, I know the resistance. You have no idea. President Mahama said, look, let the right thing be done. If at the end you are exonerated, you are exonerated.
The reference of Abanga and Joseph Yamin to Iyoko.
I am saying that President Mahama says, Attorney General, this is the reference that you have made. Let it be investigated. At least it will clear the name of those individuals if at the end of the day no wrongdoing is found. That not only that. My senior then raised the issue about why destroy some of this equipment. Government of Ghana is not destroying the water pumps. They are redistributing it to farmers for use for irrigation, among others. The only thing that we are destroying now is the champagne, because they are special purpose. You can't use champagne for anything. You can only scrap it. You can only scrap it and take the metal component for other things. But you can't use champagne for any other thing because it's a special thing made for this particular purpose. So what we should do is that, look, as we speak today, President Mahama is not saying, I will not declare a state of emergency. He says that there are cocktail of interventions, approaches, methods that I have deployed so far. I've been in power for 8 months. It's not a forever that I've been in power. 8, 9 months that I've been in power. This is my scorecard. The excavators I've gotten, none of them has vanished into thin air. You can easily verify them. 2, my transport ministry has intervened in such a way that today we are able to track the excavators and where they are going. Today, over 500 excavators are under the watch of the Ghana Armed Forces. It has never been the record. Our ports were so porous that we were moving excavators out as though we were sharing granates. That is not the record today. So yes, you can describe Ghana as having the largest excavators coming. What is the record? Thankfully, civil society, of which you vice president, could go back into that from January up to date, how many excavators have come? Where are their locations? So that the conversation becomes driven by data.
And on that,
then there can be a fair critique.
We will find
of
out
their
in a year where they will be.
Absolutely. And I want us to have that conversation once again.
Be tracking immediately.
Even now, because I am aware of a solution
up to the minute
to track the excavators from the point of entry to wherever. And thankfully, the coordinates, if you tamper with it, it will give you. And there's more like a command center where you can see every excavator and the seals on it.
Let me give you an easy way, since you are working on it. 1, unless you are a contractor involved in road.
No. So that one, I'm coming. So it is construction-led. If it's construction-led, we should know which construction site, which road contract you are executing with those excavators.
Okay.
And thankfully, roads are not constructed in space. They are on land. And so the coordinate, the geography of where can be identified. If you go and rent the excavator from ABCD company, and you say, this excavator, I am renting it for ABC construction project, you provide all of those. So the whole approach is going to be intelligence-led. It is not just going to be the usual noise. I want people to have confidence in President Mahama that he has what it takes to fix what has become our drug trade. I want to comment briefly on the issue of the state of emergency. See, when COVID came, we had the imposition of restriction acts. Go and read the Supreme Court decision on that. My professor at J went to the Supreme Court in a writ action. The Supreme Court's reasoning in striking down that imposition of restriction act is a must read. It was disguised.
As a ruse to abuse.
It was a ruse to abuse the rights of people. Go and check. Look, the dynamics of Galamsey does not make it a one-off action where a declaration of state of emergency. Look, I said it last week here. When President of Philippines, Duterte, attempted with the martial law in his claim of fighting drug, first he started with Islamic insurgents, and then transform it into a fight against drug. Today he's at The Hague, going through international criminal law. Why? Because of the excesses. Duterte himself never had a gun. Nobody saw President Duterte holding a gun, killing anybody because of drugs. But today, he's being prosecuted on the assumption of command responsibility. That as the president, the martial law happened under his watch. What we will not, with respect, allow President Mahama to take an initiative that post his presidency will become a problem for him. At least there's a historical record, there's an international record of how some of these martial laws ended up with the leaders involved.
There's a clear acknowledgement that a lot more needs to be done. We need to round up on this.
Yes, so I'll just permit me just to conclude, conclude on this one. I just want to see, President John Dramani Mahama had the benefit of doing something. The airline. The airline that under the watch of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, EPA sponsored and got passed. It gave exclusive right to the president to allow mining in forest reserve. In 8 months, the record of President Mahama, his scorecard is that he has never used that airline to grant anybody a mining opportunity in any of our forest reserve. That is a president that has exercised self-restraint. Within 4 years, when that 2 years or 3 years that the airline came into being, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo granted in excess of 500 mining leases in our forest reserves.
That's why they lost the election.
No, please, you speak for them. You are a policy advisor on that conversation. I am saying that in all fairness and candor, President Mahama has demonstrated political restraint. This is a president that has a power. He said, I don't need it. Among 8 months, that portion of the airline was what? Completely removed. We are not left, he's not done. He's saying that once Parliament convenes in October, under a certificate of urgency, I am going to have the entire airline taken off.
Amen.
That is President Mahama's commitment. That is political will.
Well,
that we have not had in the past 8 years.
There is a clear
That's leadership.
That, yes, in as much as some measures have been put in place, a lot more needs to be done.
We don't run away from that. Once the problem exists, it means that it has to be solved.
Great. Now,
but you see, it is the body language of the president that is important. Even when he has a power, he says, I don't need it.
Okay.
Why? He could have just sitting under the, claim or that, my predecessor passed it, so let me use it. He said, no.
Engineer Dr. Kanasibe, can you hear me?
I have always been saying, NPP forward. I have been saying, NPP forward. A ban no cordia or mumpena quarry. A mumpena quarry. Because MDC Amanyukubaye, you can attest to the fact, say, Omu ye Juma, I will galamsey issues home. They are seriously and busy fighting galamsey. What you say? NPP for pencil. And so Nina say, River Tano, River Cobra, River Densu, Chese, and so Kessia, and a say Ukruma. But in Sri Lanka and Copon, say NDC for by. Omu ye Duma, and I know you're a president, only media for a share. Catch a gun for you, say. About 9 of the rivers now say, and what may recover. And even he was so specific and honest. Says, forest reserves nankofuku including one to me, Okora, Numre Forest, Virgin Forest, Yen Trendia Yan Yashi, Umay Jano say, Only na intimate you the good resource. Wound to me, a kujinam bunya. A sense so sense a sense of Japadia. It destroy the natural, the natural gift in your coupon their mind. I know the Kufadu NPP for more push because they were thinking, say, the party in Yisika. I don't know, dear, the party aiding in Yisika. Or man being that, so more senior. But now, President Mahama, NDC for a year Bibia, so be secure. Ombe regaining yen sase, yinsuwa, any Bibia to me in a year. She's uncle for she your mokika. And sometimes it's really sad because we had president you catch and say unipa we say so no unipa we say forest no or san or no one kasa san begina monte ka say debi on say no debi onyan say who is a regional chairman won't me ye na ni enim say won't me mine ya no ye na konta mine no na illegal mining because na odihwe party because odibihwe nanado odibiye nanado campaign na Dr. Alhaji Bomyan so odibi na edin odibi bo ni campaign tina they see nothing wrong with it obabontin e be defending no what you say maybe sa question bi o nanado ni nsi obabontin be ka say Ghana nkoyi na yi na ye hu no utimi pointi single tenor enkoyi when say went to me ankafi unima ni say Ghana nkoyi a cheap propaganda and I've told you say nkofo manage Akufado at home they should make sure say this man will be kept from media and he won't even get access to his social media handles and one day tweet because it will be a very disgraceful. It will be a massive disgrace. say Akufo-Addo befa phone ewo fie ana so betene baby no begine baby aja kasa mu na obekasa about this government. It is a shameful to his personality, and I'm entreating the Nkrofo, those surrounding him, so we making sure say this man won't get access to the media, because some of the journalists, you know, it be a smart to the sense of the almost have a war minimum and why they of vomiting. Now what can say be any cancer worker? Into Akufo-Addo, the obey your record are best at Ukruma. The kind of track record are best at say you can't. Kanye ni senka wawia wakoti ne fee and can pebia ubejima, because you did more than harm to this country. You did more than harm to this country. Etienne onutimi gina baby kase enkoyi so kwa went me pinpoint bibi se ebia we ni enkoyi anase we ni enkoyi nanka Ghana for ya kire se masa. Enough of those words. Oye panyi wenyi pa nti yankasa mbaya no ntono. But sometimes no oye panyi nat wendi ulema enkwada edu kugina baby wose udi. So kwa dwa baasi ni wenhu baby wose otena ombesi atwon edu akusi baby fufuro, and that will be a shame on your life. Enti besremo mo manage Akufo-Addo no, mo make sure say this guy or this man, he's old enough to be called guy. This man will be what? Kept from the media, and we won't even see him on any platform. Either he goes to funeral ceremony, wherever, baby kubiano, mama papa winkasa. Because the moment this guy, this man, this man speaks, it will bring a lot of chaos, and people will hate NPP the more, because they say, you know, the more because I'm now all refreshing on what you did in your previous government. The more you talk, the more you refresh people's mind on certain things. The more you talk, the more you give people, flashback, and that will trigger, and people will get more angry at your party, which is NPP. And the more Okasano now party would equal opposition, the more, although they're in position, but the more you talk, the more they go far away from power. And NPP say, you people should keep this man. Keep this man wherever this man won't get access to media, wherever. Just a baby public, you people should do, because whenever this man speaks, it looks like people get more annoyed, because man a chance. We gave him the ample time to develop this country. When to me, it's so now set bad precedents, bad recorder. That's a sebi or samba mountain so because it's like you're throwing dust into our eyes, and we will never allow you to do so. It is sanity. Thanks to Martin Kpebu, AYÄKA Lawyer Kofi Bentil, the SO the uncan quarry, because of NPP spectacle. A yeman uncle so a Chilawaju comment session, Hanum, area number 1, authentic platform, negative, and coupon. Bye bye.